That moves us to the action agenda. Do we have any motions from executive session?
I make a motion to approve selected employment items in Exhibit A.
Second.
All in favor? And the motion carries 6-0.
And I make a motion to approve the 2026-2027 reappointments as seen in Exhibit C.
All in
Second.
favor? Oh, yep, sorry.
Even though it's not required, because we're doing a block vote on these reappointments, my vote, just for the sake of avoiding an appearance of conflict of interest, my vote will be for everyone in that exhibit except for my wife.
And since my daughter, Mary Wood, is in that clump of employee reappointments, I will be recusing myself from that vote, but I will be voting for all the other employees. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor? And the motion carries 6-0. That moves us to number 13 on the agenda, a board request. Item from Mrs. Huddle. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board request my request for information on the McMillan Pasden Smith identified items as poor and critical.
Second.
Okay, so what this is back in 2023, we contracted for about $200,000 with McMillan Pasden and Smith to go look at all of our facilities, and they came back with a very extensive report, and they rated items one of 5 categories, everything from excellent to poor, or critical even. Excuse me. So we've approved a lot of money since then, and I just want to, I kind of take it like a homeowner. If I paid a inspector to come in and look at the house before I bought it, and they said, well, the roof is leaking and the floor needs to be replaced, and they gave me a list. Some of those are things, right, you're going to make sure get fixed and you want to track them. Others may not be that important. So I'm only asking for the critical and the poor. And one of the things I did is I created a spreadsheet, and I went in and I typed them all in. There are 333 of them, but the vast majority of them, my understanding is, are covered by the bond referendum, because there were a number of schools that, and Dr. Ross can correct me if I'm wrong, are the refurbishing for those schools from the MPS report. The critical and poor items are included. There was also a July 2024 special bond that was for ADA issues, HVAC. So I believe those are included. So I'm just looking for my own edification before I vote to spend more money on additional things. I feel like as a board, we need to know the status of the missing items, if you will. So that's the purpose of this. I feel like I've done the legwork. You know, I'm even willing, if I go sit somewhere with somebody and just look at a list. I just, you know, there are 10 roofs on here. And if a roof leaks, it causes a lot of problems. So I just want to make sure that I'm doing my job, we're doing our job, that we know that these things are on a list somewhere and what list they're on before we start spending more money.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Satterfield.
Yes. Mr. Knotts, I started to call you Alan, sorry. You gave a presentation at the last board meeting, correct? I know you weren't here at that. And you saw that? Okay. Was the information that Ms. Huddle was requesting, was it in that wide span of information that you were offering, was any of that stuff covered in that?
Yes, sir.
Well, I watched that. I watched the video since I wasn't there, and I realized a lot of information was covered, but what I didn't see were there, like I said, there's 10 roofs on here that aren't in the bond referendum, and I didn't see that, where the status of, you know, are we getting these roofs fixed?
So would you, I think maybe as of lunchtime today, everyone has access to the Power BI information. This right here has about 3,000 of the 11,000 occurrences, and we've actually brought them down to about 400 different projects. It would be extremely hard for us to have 400 little sticky notes or whatever else trying to manage this. So we're using our technology that the district has to help us oversee and manage and kind of group these things together. Because if I want to go out and do a bunch of heating and air repairs, I'm able to go do that. So in there, it has all the roofs. It has everything that was a 1, 2, and 3, for those schools in the bond referendum of the listed schools.
Ms. Huddle, I know this is on the board, on the agenda for action. I didn't know until Mr. Knott said just now that we have access to this as of today. Before we ask for a different document, would you be open to looking at what they just gave us access to see if that answers the question first? And if not, we revisit. I mean, I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Okay, so I'll just pull an example. And by the way, I want to put this in the minutes. So let me just look. Okay, so for example, on this list was questionable organic growth at Chapin High School. So if I sit down with you, is all these critical and poor items in your system that I could go see, where is that being resolved?
Everything that was in the NPS report for those items are in Power BI.
Okay, so the answer is yes, if you wouldn't mind if I sat down with you.
No, ma'am. I think we have to make sure administrative things stay administrative and policy things stay policy. We gave you access to what he has. He needs to work. He doesn't need to sit down with anybody and prove that he can do that. I do his evaluations. That's what he needs to do.
So I think since we have access to it, and again, I haven't looked at it, so I don't know anything about it, but is there a link or something that we already got? Or?
So you should have, you can explain, but in your email, you received the login. So what Alan has done is he shared his dashboard. Mm-hmm. You have, when we deal with large data sets, we have very large data sets. And so if it's testing, we use Tableau. Library materials, we use Folic. For maintenance issues, we use Power BI. It's a Microsoft product. We basically copied his dashboard. You have his dashboard. So you can go in there, you use I think he sent each one of you a login email, and Ms. White has sent you instructions on how to log in. Okay. You can go in, you can look at all of the incidences, look at what, by school, you can look at it by project type, you can look at, and just see where we are on those things. But that should give you an idea of where we are in the process of this.
Okay.
So we got an email today that will let us do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Perfect. All right.
Well, I will withdraw my motion then.
For now? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Knotts. All right, that moves us to the discussion agenda. First up, the strategic plan updates. Is that Ms. Black?
Oh, Dr. Harris.
Thank you so much. Again, members of Board Superintendent Ross and our community. Tonight, we wanted to have Director of our Planning and Accountability, Ms. Audrey Black, to share with us a couple of different things under this update, and that is an update regarding some amendments to the current 2022 through 2027 strategic plan, immediately followed by some information, ideas, insight for you as board members regarding the next phase or the next 5-year strategic plan, 2027 through 2032. And so we have Ms. Black to do that at this time.
So, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Ross, and members of our community. Thank you for the opportunity to present a high-level overview of our strategic plan and the recommended updates for the 2026-2027 school year. Before addressing any questions related to the proposed changes in your board packet, I will briefly review what a strategic plan is and why it is important. South Carolina state law requires all school districts to develop a 5-year strategic plan, with schools creating their own 5-year renewal plans. Both are updated annually. These plans serve as blueprints that guide administration in supporting our district's mission and vision. Here in District 5, our schools and the Kate Center align their renewal plans with the district's strategic plan to ensure consistency and focus. These same regulations require that every district and school include goals in 3 key areas. Those are school climate, academic achievement, and teacher and administrator quality. Additional regulations require districts to set goals for gifted and talented education, integrating those plans into the broader strategic planning process. Our annual update to the district strategic plan follows the South Carolina Continuous Improvement Model. This cyclical model guides us in reviewing the strategic plan while ensuring the plan remains relevant and responsive to the district's needs over time. So for consistency, I am capitalizing on one of Dr. Ross's slides. The strategic plan includes multiple components. These include a comprehensive needs assessment, performance goals, interim performance goals, strategies and action plans, evaluation of those strategies, evidence of comprehensive consensus building, and assurances. As Dr. Ross often reminds us, our strategic plan includes 4 performance goals. Each goal is supported by 6 strategies, and those strategies are further supported by over 165 action steps. Together, these action steps serve as a practical guide for achieving our mission and vision. District 5 is committed to incorporating stakeholder input into its strategic planning process. Each of our 24 strategies is shaped by ongoing stakeholder input, with dedicated leads engaging educators, families, and community members throughout the year to ensure our work reflects real needs and experiences. In all, over 100 stakeholders provided a broad range of perspectives on current initiatives and future priorities. The next series of slides will dive deeper into each of the district's performance goal areas. Our goal for school climate asserts that we will maintain a safe and secure environment focused on the social and emotional growth of all students as measured by the perceptions of parents, teachers, and students. Like all of our goals, this is a SMART goal, meaning it is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. On the slide before you, you'll see our baseline data on the left, our target outcomes on the right, our annual interim benchmarks in between, and the latest data is highlighted in yellow. Parent satisfaction has met the target, and student satisfaction continues to meet interim benchmarks, keeping the district on track toward the long-term goal. Teacher satisfaction is trending further from the target, although it does remain above the baseline year. Our second goal focuses on academics and establishes that we will provide challenging curricula that support academic growth and prepare students for college and career success, as measured by the median student growth percentile on MAP, graduation rates, and college career readiness. As with school climate, the slide before you outlines the target outcomes, the interim benchmarks, and the latest data highlighted in yellow. Our first 2 goals focus on the median student growth in math and reading for students grades K2 through 8, as measured by NWEA MAP. A growth percentile of 50 indicates that on average, students are growing at the same rate as their peers nationwide. A percentile above 50 means they are growing at a faster rate than their peers, while a percentile below 50 shows slower growth. Students in the district continue to demonstrate growth rates above the national average in both math and reading. Our focus on formative growth factors into the increase in the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations on SC Ready in both areas. Graduation rates and college or career readiness rates have increased for the 3rd consecutive year and remain above both Midlands and South Carolina rates. A district is only as strong as its educators. Our 3rd goal ensures that we recruit, retain, and develop a highly effective and diverse team. We measure our progress through teacher retention rates, teacher satisfaction with working conditions, and teacher feedback on professional development. As with the other goals, our targets and interim benchmarks are on the slide before you. All 3 performance indicators declined from 2024. In alignment with this trend, teacher satisfaction data from the school climate goal also reflects a decrease. These results will be included in the district's upcoming comprehensive needs assessment for our new strategic plan. Our 4th and final goal focuses on challenging our highest achieving students by providing challenging instruction through an honors framework focused on the academic development of students in gifted programs and to provide equitable opportunities for participation in gifted programs. We measure our progress by analyzing median student growth percentiles in math, and reading, advanced placement passage rates, and participation rates of underrepresented students in high-level courses. Since this goal contains multiple metrics, we have split them across slides. Once again, the district is growing its highest achievers in math and exceeding our target. In contrast, reading growth for high-achieving students continued at a slower rate than their national peers and reflects a downward trend. Before you are the final 2 goals of our gifted and talented students. Advanced placement passage rates are a remarkable 12.9 percentage points above our target, all the while increasing the number of AP courses taught and the number of tests taken. The district strives to increase participation rates for underrepresented students in higher level courses. While interim benchmarks have not yet been met, both grades 3 through 5 and 6 through 8 show increases compared to the baseline year. The high school level experienced a slight decline of 1.1 percentage points. While progress in grades 9 through 12 remains slower than anticipated, the accelerated growth in lower grades is expected to yield improved outcomes as the secondary level over time. So our strategic plan is a dynamic, living document that guides decision-making across our district. This update marks the final year of the current 5-year cycle. In your board packets, you'll find the administration's recommended updates for the 2026-2027 school year. Given the scope of the full strategic plan, these updates have been organized in a concise format along with the entire strategic plan. So now I would like to briefly share where we are with the development of the 2032 strategic plan. Last year, we presented the timeline and process for developing our next strategic plan. At this time, we are concluding the initiation phase. During this phase, the district is aggregating data related to demographics, indicators of student learning, and stakeholder perceptions. Perception data is currently being collected through surveys and input sessions. The South Carolina Department of Education Climate Survey is currently open to students, teachers, and parents through April 15th. Input sessions are also currently underway. The district has met with students, parents, faculty, principals, and district administration. Feedback from support staff will be gathered on March 31st, and outreach to the Board of Trustees will occur in the upcoming weeks. As the initiation phase concludes, the district will begin analyzing the collected data. Principal and district administration will review each strategy within the current strategic plan to examine levels of implementation. This same process will occur with strategy leads and stakeholder groups. The results of this review will inform decisions regarding which strategies are maintained, revised, or removed in the 2027-2032 strategic plan. New performance goals will be developed and presented to the public at the June 29th board meeting. The strategic plan provides a clear and actionable roadmap to support the district's mission and vision. I thank you for your time, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Huddle.
I couldn't help but notice there are map scores in there, and we just talked about. So are you allowed to change that, the measurement tool? And if so, would it move to iReady or would it move to SC Ready?
So, yes, one, you are allowed to change your goals, and that is not going to be an issue. When we go through the 2027-2032 is where we will most likely make that change to either SC Ready or if we have iReady, we'll change to iReady. We could have both. It depends really on what that stakeholder feedback comes with, what the principals and administration and the strategy leads and the stakeholders agree upon.
Okay. And another question, the state has a, what we used to call a hairy audacious goal of, is it 70% reading on grade level by third grade? Did I get that right?
I know that they want 75%
Is it
of all
75?
students to be
On or
on grade
above grade
level.
level by
On or
by
above
third
grade
grade.
level,
Is that
yes.
as measured by SC Ready?
Measured by the accountability, so it would be, according to the state strategic plan, it's all accountability measures, 75% at or above grade level. So I'm assuming that's SC Ready, that it would also be EOC, correct?
Okay. And one last question, if you go back to the gifted and talented, if you don't mind slide, it's 3 or 4 slides back. One more.
Okay.
Yeah, the 90th percentile or more on the bottom one, and it's gone from 47 to 46 to 43. It is, I'm assuming you're not gonna make the goal keep going down. So what's the thought there as far as like what is going on and what we may change to try to make the score start going back the other direction?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. McCaskill.
Sure. I will tell you that that is a change that we've made this current year. For one thing, for middle schools, we've made a criteria for our honors classes versus just waving students into honors classes. And that's been a request from teachers to be able to maintain the rigor within those classrooms and not maybe let that slip a little bit. And I do think that I'm seeing some changes with that. Another piece of that, in my opinion, is a way to effectively be able to accelerate students easily for teachers. Not to be a broken record, but iReady does allow you to go up a grade level. So just like I showed you how you can toggle on that grade level and say which standards, if it was a 4th grader, I could toggle to 5th grade to see which standards that student might already know. And I could be able to give assignments and have lessons that would go right alongside that. So really being able to provide resources to teachers that can realistically be able to enhance that instruction.
So just as a follow-up, because I'm curious, the map, in your example, like the map is measuring against 4th grade, other 4th graders, right? iReady, is it going to do that? Like, is it going to measure against 4th grade standards and 5th grade standards, or how will that work for the parents who may have the advanced accelerated students?
So you're going to get a percentile, first of all. So that's going to give you, if you're in the upper 90th percentile, that means that you're just like you're still going to be compared to other students within the 4th grade. But then whenever you look at your standards, that's where the standards report for 4th grade. If you're excelling, you might have mastered your 4th grade standards, but then we can click to the 5th grade standards and see which of those standards, because the test is adaptive. So it is going to adapt to know where the child needs to be assessed.
Do we have Mr. Bainham?
2 brief questions. Under student achievement, it has some of the programs that you mentioned will be phased out. Will we just update the goals once those are gone? And then something I didn't think about that I see here under student achievement, encouraging teachers to earn the multilingual endorsement. So that's maybe a teacher that doesn't teach a foreign language to assist with, like at Irmo High School, some of the multilingual students. Do they get any sort of like bonus or supplement for earning that, or is it right now just kind of a benefit?
There is no pay increase necessarily for an extra endorsement. It's really the professional development piece of it, just knowing those strategies that work best for the multilingual learners. So that's an encouragement, and we do have a platform right now that they can get that endorsement free of charge. There's a small fee for the graduate credit that goes along with it if you want to get the graduate credit that goes along with it, but it's minimal.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, thank you, Ms. White. All right, that takes us to the discussion of the strategic capital plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Want to go over, again, our strategic capital plan. This all started as a update. We've done in 2019 was the MBCON report, and 2023 was the MPS report on our annual capital maintenance. And in that, that was May 2023, in which this report was issued to the community. It gave the rankings at that time of what our scores were for our particular buildings. This was a major part of the multiple assessments we did in preparation for a referendum question. When the report came back looking at 3.7 million square feet, it identified 11,137 total incidences, ranking those incidences from a level 1 to level 5. What it gave us was 5 different categories in which to put these total incidences: health, safety, and security, building envelope, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, or MEP, site conditions, and interiors. I think what's important to note is that this is not static. The day this released, we had issues. We had issues that this didn't accommodate. And so one of the things that we're trying to compile is the issues that we deal with every day, the things that the community calls about, or you may call us about, and the issues that we have in MPS. I think it's fair to say that not all of our Category 1s are in the MPS report. The day that they left, we could have had another Category 1 or a roof leak. So I want to give you an idea of, since they left, what happens in School District 5. We have a program in which we library all of our, or categorize all of our incidences within the school year. So you're looking at a January to January snapshot of our incidents, which will show you during that time 5,600 items, about 22 things that break a day. You see that dip in June where it's very low. It's not because nothing broke in June, it's because that was the time of the data security incident. But you see how once we came back online, those things ramped back up. So what we wanted to give you is what we actually work with. This is a very dynamic process in which we do our maintenance. And it toggles between a lot of different people who have to touch this to get this going. Some items we can fix with our staff, some things that need to be put out for outsourcing. Some things are handled by a warranty. A lot of our roofs, for instance, they're under warranty. And so we don't want to misuse taxpayer funds, so we execute the warranty, which is not a quick process, but nonetheless, we have to know those differences. So we are putting these items into processes and projects so that we can combine like items, get those things out to get them addressed. But I think it's important to say, and that's why we ask you to look at what we're currently doing, because our system takes in all of the things that we get each and every day to try to fix it. So all maintenance requests are entered into what's called the Master Library Work Order System, or our ML work order system. And our maintenance department has to address them. We average documented, now this is documented 22 items every day. Now, that's 365 days, but we only have our maintenance staff for 240 days. So that's 34 facility issues that they have to work on each day. We have 14 staff members in the maintenance. but not all of them handle all things, right? So we have 3 electricians, we have 2 plumbers, 1 carpenter, 4 HVAC techs, 2 maintenance specialists, and we appreciate you adding that because they do PM hours. And some of our items, when we go into the classroom to try to fix something, it's an interruption to the instructional day. And so they prefer us to wait for when schools are closed. So we do have those 2 that try to get those things. We have 1 low voltage tech. They handle items like key cards and those things. And then someone for property services, maintaining trees and limbs and those kind of things. So those 14 staff people are trying to handle those 34. And again, even if it's 22 a day, you got 14 going after 22. The majority of the issues that we face are HVAC and plumbing issues. And so our goal is to try to get ahead of this. We have 2 plumbers. We have try to hire 2 more. I don't know if you know the market in plumbing, but you make a lot more money outside of the district than inside of it. So I wanted to share this because I think our maintenance people, they have what seems to be an impossible job. There's not one day where they get everything done. And so every day they're beat up on because someone says they're not doing it or not doing it fast enough, and they're working every single day to try to get this. So the goal was to talk to the operations and facilities and the maintenance team and say, what could we do? We love that question. What could we do to help them? And I think if we go to the NPS report and give them funding sources in our annual capital, in these we call buckets. We used to do this, and then that process, because there was no trust of that maintenance process, it was scaled back to we'll do this once a year. Once a year we would dole out money, and it had to be towards a specific broken issue. And if it broke the next day, it was not allocated within that capital. This is not sustainable. And so for a lot of our plumbing situations, you can get to a school and have 2 different kind of plumbing systems on one site. One has parts available, one doesn't have parts available. But you have one plumber who handles from Dutch Fork High School to Piney Woods, and another one who handles Dutch Fork Middle School to Seven Oaks. And every day they're getting beat up on because they're not getting all of it done. So what I ask is that give them the trust and the flexibility to fund these buckets, and as the problems arise, they have the funding and the ability to address these issues as they present themselves with health and safety and security, building envelope, mechanical, electrical and plumbing, site conditions, and interiors. And you can audit our work. As we spend from the buckets that you allocate, audit us. We will present it every month to show you the work that we're doing. But to think that we can micromanage it from this table, we'll never get ahead of the game. And so the way we see facility maintenance, we're blessed that we have a referendum. Right now, our referendum allows us to do reconditioning and renovations. It allows us to get ahead of this. And so you'll see in the next presentation from Jay and Franny, an opportunity to fill these buckets up with bond and 8% funding. And by filling these buckets up, we can give them that flexibility to fix these things, repair these things. Some of these systems just need to be replaced and not patched up anymore. So consider facility maintenance funding in 2 different pots. One, bond referendum that will have the defined new construction from the bond question and the defined renovations and reconditioning as outlined. Those sites are outlined in the bond question. For the matters that are not in the bond question, you will still have the buckets of funding for each one of these categories. And then, based on our 8% position, you would have special projects that would come to this body every year. The special projects, we have that time to have that annual discussion about do we move forward with those, the prioritization, but we need a faster, more efficient way to address the ongoing maintenance. We want to one day get to the point where our maintenance staff is like the Maytag repairmen, where they're just doing preventative maintenance. But right now, they have an impossible job, and we're trying to support them. We're trying to encourage them and uplift them to let them know that help is on the way. So we heard from the board about its positionality.
Nobody might have any questions, but I figured since we were sort of switching to something else, I just wanted to make sure nobody had questions about the first part. Ms. Huddle?
Yeah, I guess and I might need Ms. Tucker to weigh in, but I'm kind of confused that we're talking about maintenance in the same words as capital. Like, capital, correct me if I'm wrong, can't be used to fix a plumbing issue at a school. It could be used to refurbish the whole, am I right?
So our $15 million, our annual spring issuance, is essentially our maintenance budget. We don't have that within our operations budget. We use that $15 million to outline all of the repairs and reconditioning of the schools as far as the facilities reconditioning goes.
I get reconditioned, but accounting-wise, are you allowed, let's just be, if I'm
just a quick toilet fix, but
Yeah,
like if
so
there's an
that's-
issue in the bathroom.
So what are the high-level rules of capital? Because usually it's a dollar amount and a useful life, right?
So it's a useful life over a year, and it depends on which funds we use too. If we're using federal funds, there's different rules, but typically anything over a year useful life, and we have a dollar threshold as well. So $500 for the item we're putting that in an inventory. So
Okay, so the 8% money, the capital, those items need to be individual items over $800 and a useful life of greater than 1 year.
Correct.
Okay. So I guess, and you guys get the bills and everything for this, so I guess I'm trying to understand why changing the categories will allow these to get addressed faster. How does that?
If I can just finish the slide, I
Okay,
promise you it's
all
in
right,
here.
I thought we were doing.
No, we were not going, yeah. No, you're fine. I'm just, it looks like a transitionary slide. It's the same presentation. No, yeah. So what you have here, and I think it's a good piece, what we're doing is patching, right? And what we need to be doing is replacing. These are substantial life, the life is going to be way beyond 1 year. When we think about, let's take Dutch Fork High School, for example, that's no longer the new building, right? And so when we look at where we're getting the most report from, surprisingly enough, you'll see that I think Spring Hill and Dutch Fork High School and Ballantyne Elementary, these are schools that are presenting the most, Irmo High School, they're presenting the most issues. And why are they presenting the most issues? These are substantial issues that need to be changed. And I think, here's how we would break down that proposed capital to address it. And I think if you look at these, you can see why they're over $800 and why they're a substantial life of that is past a year. With our 8%, every year we do technology. We're increasing the technology this year, putting a little bit more towards security and our data center as we look at precautions that we want to take for data security in our security infrastructure. If you look at transportation, we're having, it's amazing, we talk about the number of students, but the activity level has increased. And so we have a lot of requests for travel and athletics, and so that has increased. And then special projects, we talked about Chapin Transportation Bus Depot, the inclusive and middle school athletic fields, replacement of the scoreboards at Chapin High School, Dutch Fork High School, and Irmo High School, and press boxes for Dutch Fork High School and Irmo High School. So when you put all that together, if you go back to the category buckets, in the gray, you see the bond referendum issuance. Ms. Hauser will come forth at the next part and talk about the $100 million that we want to issue for bond referendum. And that would be for new construction and reconditioning. If you look at the projects by category, those bucket categories that we would do for reconditioning and renovations, you see $10 million projected for health, safety, and security, $5 million to address the building envelope, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, that's $8.5 million out of the bond money. Site improvements will be $9 million out of bond, and interior and furniture would be $7 million. To get a better detail of how we address that, these are the areas in which they would go into for those matters to address those things within the bond. Now, on the other side of that, you see maintenance. And again, these are items that are not included in the bond referendum. The bond referendum is site-specific. So if you go on the other side of that, you see under the maintenance column, what we're doing for health, safety, and security for non-bond related is about $300,000, $150,000 for building envelope. MEP will be over $500,000. Site conditions $200,000. Interiors $150,000. So we're very fortunate. With the referendum, we can put a lot of money to addressing those things. To think that $11 million is going to cover all those things in the MPS report is a fallacy. So I'm excited that we have referendum funds to be able to address that. What that does is, when we look at technology, you see the 4.2 there, transportation, and then what we call special projects. So that's a total of everything in white is a total of $24 million. We're going to talk about that bond issuance there. And then in gray, you have the $39.5 million that's a part of the $100 million issuance for the bond referendum. So again, the revenue that will, and this kind of as a segue into Franny's presentation with Heather, we typically have $15 million plus an additional $8 million of 8% capacity, $9 million of 8% capacity, plus the $100 million for referendum debt, which gives us a total of $124 million for these. So this is the kind of breakdown of what that would address. But essentially, because of the conditionality of these facilities, a lot of this is replacing of these systems as outlined in the categories given to us by MPS. So we feel like this is a more structured, more efficient way to address funding our capital improvement, and we're just very blessed to have the referendum funds to address a lot of these replacements.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Mrs. Satterfield?
I really have a comment. You know, somebody once told me that it's hard to talk your way out of something you behaved yourself into. And this is where we are. I mean, if you look at the MPS report, I mean, look at all the number twos on there. I mean, look at the number 2s and 3s. We don't have very many blues on there. And the reason is we continue to try to scratch and claw instead of making these improvements when they need to be made and being more proactive. So I like the idea. My concern is will we ever be able to kind of catch up? Because you're taking a building that replace or improve within 2 to 3 years, and you're going to do what we can. We're going to make it look a little bit better and try to fix and repair things, but it's still a school that's quite aged. And if any of you have been in this district as long as I have, I remember when most of these schools were brand new, opening up. And I made the comment, I know you brought up Irmo High School. I'm so excited about this new addition to Irmo High School, but I'm going to tell you, walk in the back of the school, walk down the back hall, walk into the gym, walk in the other stairwells. There are areas that it's just going to be like, when I say I don't want to put lipstick on a pig, I mean that. I want that high school to be a place where students and teachers are proud to be. Every one of our schools should be that. This should be a place for that they're proud to be part of and be part of that school. And I'm all in favor of being proactive and not reactive. So I'm hoping that this action or this decision that the board does make puts us in a better situation for future boards when they're trying to fix and repair some of these facilities.
Mr. Bainum?
Just a few briefly. With our maintenance staff, I don't know, Dr. Ross or Mr. Knotts, when they're putting in work orders, do they have to come back to the maintenance office to sit at a table and do that?
Thank you for asking that. I think one of the reasons that I need Alan to really be able to focus is the only people who can update this, there's no assistance, it's the maintenance people. So once the plumber responds to a spot, he goes back to his truck and he clears the work order. And I think people see that person and they say, well, what are you working on? You need to go fix this water fountain over here. So what they typically do is they just work. They're trying to work, but they're also trying to update the system so that we can report out transparently what's happening. So the same people who do the work have to go clear that ticket.
But it's a manual. Do they have a tablet, a Chromebook, a desktop? I mean,
I'll let Alan talk about that.
phone.
So they have several ways of inputting the data. It could be a phone, an iPad, or a laptop. So there's just multiple ways for them to do that. And, and this, just keep in mind that the work order, the information that comes through ML, the work order system per se, that does not capture all of the work because we get emails, text messages, phone calls, hey, this is stat or something, somebody may not want to, maybe they just don't want to put the work order in, and we're trying to deploy people, or reworking some of the technicians to go to those sites.
So I guess with people in the field, if there's ever an opportunity that, y'all come upon that we can streamline that process, working with, corporations and so on and so forth, to make it go faster from y'all's perspective, whether it's a application, it's a device, if that would help speed it up, I mean.
And we are looking at that. So we're at the end of our 5-year cycle with the current work order system, and there's several of them, but, and I've done several work order builds throughout my career. They can all pretty much do the same thing. They all may have a little spin or flavor to it. But, all of them, as long as you set them up the right way, they can handle whatever task. And then with technology, with the iPads and all that, and the phones being wireless, it's most of them have some sort of interface that they can go to, and we just want to make it real simple. Like click a button and they can have select a predetermined response and then populate their information.
Thank you. And then Ms. Tucker or Dr. Ross, y'all might be able to help. So from the budget workshop, I know the figures may vary, but the past couple of years when we do our bond in the spring and sometimes in the fall, if there's remaining money from projects that are not completed, say it's, I don't know, 30, 40 million, I don't know the exact amount, could we not look at hiring a crew to come in the summer and just knock everything out?
That's one of the things that we talked about within our 5-year cycle, so that's a good point. We are lining our strategic plan out with our capital plan, and since next year is the end, we bring all of those 5 years forward, and we can decide at that year what do we do with those. I think one of our realities is the timeline issue. There's a time to work and there's a time where we can't work. And so when you're doing roofing or major plumbing issues or HVAC issues, we try to find long weekends, summers, breaks to do those because it's very disruptive to the, so you'll see some of these projects, they're encumbered. We issue the debt in the spring, and you'll hear from Franny about how that money comes in, but by the time we go out for bid, summer's over with, we gotta wait till the next summer. I will say that, our two issues, maintenance-wise, are HVAC and plumbing. That's our largest issues. You can see the staff that we have to address it. But a lot of that work is happening now. And so a credit to them. I think Ballantyne Elementary School, I think we replaced all those aging HVAC items there. So I think while we look at capital, a lot of this is just replacement of large systems. And then the next is just going to be a huge push on plumbing systems. I can tell you Dutch Fork, especially high school, there's a lot of plumbing issues that we can't repair anymore. So when we say knock it out, it is getting the funding, prioritizing it so that we have the agility to hit things that we just didn't know about. And I think that's what the flexibility that the maintenance partner is asking for.
Well, more referring to the everyday tasks that are, kind of clogging up the system. So painting the sign at this school, there's a couple that need it, fixing door handles. I know that list grows, every day. So just kind of coming in and getting us back on track, maybe?
Yeah, and I appreciate you've last year you approved 2 PM groups. They're not assigned to any campus. And we have one on one end of the district, one on the other, and that's kind of what they do. So while they help with a lot of, Alan, if you want to speak to kind of what they're doing, this is probably the most cost-effective way we can do these. But if you can speak to that.
So right now, we have our PM group, and internally, we call it the strike team, where they just go in there and they just kind of go gangbusters in a sense. At a facility. One of the things that was completed just recently was a lot of ceiling grid and lights. They had to, change out a bunch of light bulbs over at Crossroads Intermediate. And I had a chance to go take a look at that today, actually. And it looks fantastic. Is everything perfect in there? It's not perfect, but we've made a lot of major strides. And by getting the lights functional, getting operational, it's brighter, it's cleaner, has a cleaner look to it. Getting rid of all the stained ceiling tiles, it goes a long way in keeping our schools looking good and keeping everything healthy.
Ms. Huddle?
So one question, you guys approved a budget calendar last meeting, and I'm assuming that was the operating budget, whereas this is the capital. So will there be 2 readings on this?
So we intend to do the readings on the capital budget in conjunction with the bond referendum, or the resolution for the debt readings to go in conjunction. So there'll be 2 readings, and once the capital budget's passed, we'll input that into the resolution for the debt.
So just one request, which I know I'm just one board member. I understand you guys kind of you have a lump there for the special projects, but $17.9 million is a lot of money. Can you guys estimate what those 4 buckets are? How you came up with the $17.9 million? That would be helpful. I was also curious, and this is a question for Mr. Knotts, I think. My understanding is that there's a life cycle to roofs. I feel like Allen Iverson in practice, because for some reason tonight I'm talking about roofs. But anyway, is that true? And if so, what's that range on the district buildings?
So there's a life cycle for everything. I know Dr. Ross was talking about plumbing. most of our plumbing, I think, at most of the facilities I've been able to work at, after about 40 years, you're gonna start having major failures of plumbing. With the roofing systems, typically you have a 20, 30-year warranty on a roof. I'm not a roofing expert, but I know a lot of good roofing people that I've been able to rely on in the past. But, typically you want to keep it around the warranty period. The way that I think the district approached roofs when I first got to the district was they would do one roof a year, just one roof. So whether, they may address one roof, but you may have 5 other places that have leaks. And the goal was to basically, stop the bleeding with all the leaks within the district, and then start looking at it in a different approach to where you're doing sections of roofs that need that attention.
Okay, because I guess the reason I was asking is because of what you really said is like, as a homeowner, if you have 25-year shingles, usually around 25 years, you're like, I don't want to wait till it actually leaks because that's when it gets really nasty and expensive. I want to go ahead and replace it. So that's essentially what you're saying we ought to be doing too, is when the warranty is up, we ought to be replacing or replacing in sections.
You can replace sections, you can look at reconditioning. There's several things that you can look at, and we're entertaining that now. I know we had, I think, some capital signed for some roofs when I first got here, but that's not enough money to cover both roofs. So, but we can get at least a roof reconditioned or restored, and that's the new approach that a lot of places are moving towards. I think when you look at holistically, you look at the entire district and what it takes to maintain this. I know it sent Dr. Ross some information, this white paper information, some that I gathered when I first got here, and then some that's just recent. And it just goes into how much it costs per square foot to maintain it. And for this district right here, it's a lot more than we're getting in capital. It is a lot more, just to keep things running, because you have these assets, you don't want them to fail. So you have to invest those funds back into the district. Maybe one day we'll be able to show that, but there's a lot of information out there throughout the country. You have some that are as low as $5 per square foot a year to maintain the facility, and then some are, I think, up in New York, it's, I don't know, maybe $100 a square foot. It's something crazy.
Well, the reason I asked is because I also, like the rest of us, we hear from people, parents and teachers, when the roofs are leaking.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, is 150, because the roof would come under building envelope, right?
Ma'am?
The building envelope category is where roof refurbishment and replacement would come, right?
That's where we would want it under building envelope.
Okay, so if you take all of our roofs that are at the end of their warranty, and if we wanted to replace those, because they're at the end of their warranty, is that enough money?
I don't have that information. I know we have a book about yay thick, has a bunch of information about warranties. I'm not sure what we have.
Okay. Well, I'll just put it out there. I mean, I'm concerned, if we're going to spend this much money and we have roofs that are at the end of their useful life, I hope we're looking at that. Another question I had is actually probably for Ms. Tucker, so I'll quit talking about roofs. If you take out the bond referendum and you go back several years, not this particular year, because I know it's, the 25, 26, we're not at the end. But how much money is still left that hasn't either been spent or had a purchase order? I think that's how you guys encumber. How many millions have we not actually spent or encumbered?
So that's one of the things I really looked at when I came into this job, because there was capital funds that had money left over. And so we've been actively trying to spend down those old capital funds, because we would love to be able to come to the board with a new strategic plan and say, this is what's left, and this is what we want to give back to the board to reallocate. So if you go back and look, FY21 is the first year that there's really decent money left. I think there's a few $1,000s in some previous funds, but there's about $400,000 in 21 and 22, or $600,000 in 22. The majority of that is just interest we've earned on the money that was kind of sitting there. And so a lot of that, same for FY '23, there's $3 million left in that fund, and that is all interest on what was just building as that fund was sitting there. So that money is essentially sitting in a fund, and we have finished the majority of those projects. So we would have to come back to the board and say, what would you like to do with this money? And for '24 and '25, there's another, I think '24 has 8.5 million in it. About 3.5 of that is contingency, but there are 2 big projects left in '24 that are roofs. I know Alan and I have talked about this. I think there's 2.5 each for 2 different roofs in that capital budget. That's not enough to completely rip off the roofs, but it's enough to do some reconditioning. And Alan, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like we've had this conversation before in that budget. So those are projects that are still in the pipeline. But there's probably around $20 million. And again, some of that is projects that are in the pipeline, but not necessarily encumbered yet, like those 2 roofs. That's about $5 million of that. And then some of that is contingency that, since we don't have projects remaining in those capital budgets, we would have to come back to the board and say, this is how much money's left. What would you like for us to do with it?
Thank you. And one last question. I was looking at the middle school fields, and it occurred to me, because I've had 2 parents ask me this, the new middle schools that are being created, Crossroads, which is now going to be Crossroads Middle, and the old, well, you've got 2 middle schools in Chapin now. But anyway, the question I was asked is, are those kids going to, at every single middle school, are we going to have all of our athletic programs for kids to participate in for 26, 27?
No, we're not ready for 26, 27. We have to, and we hope that in this budget, we can get the supplements done with the supplement study to have the coaches set up so that we'll be in place for the 27, 28 school year.
So just to follow up on that, so let's take Crossroads Middle, will those kids not be able to participate at all, or will they be able to participate at either Irma Middle or Dutch Fork Middle?
Yeah, so right now what they'll do is they're basically staying in their same system. So right now all the students are at one school participating for the same number of slots. They'll be at 2 different sites competing for the same number of slots. What we're going to ask is that the board this year expand those slots, and then for the next year, there'll be more opportunities for them to participate. So I think there's 2 things that we have to do. One is build out the fields for them to practice on, because if you talk to the high school ADs, there's barely enough room for the high schoolers to participate in those fields. I know we talk about, baseball, and I'll just pick on Dutch Fork for example. There's just not another place for the baseball to practice at that site. So we're trying to build the space for the middle schools to have their individual, and then put the staffing in this year's budget. So right now, it's the same number of slots or spots that we have for the current year is what we'll be in for next year.
And in Chapin, which school will have the on-site athletics? Will it be the Spring Hill or Chapin?
Great question. So according to the high school league, the member school is Chapin Middle. So you have to be a member of the high school league. We'll be working on the applications for Spring Hill Middle and Crossroads Middle, but they're not members yet. So if you play for, if you remember that flow chart, you're going to follow your color. If you're green, you're at the Dutch Fork High program. If you're yellow, you're at the Irma High program. If you're blue, you're at the Chapin High program, and then you'll play for Chapin Middle C team, Dutch Fork Middle C team, and then Irma Middle C team. And that's important because right now your ADs from varsity down to B team are all feeding in that level. Once we get the supplements right, and then we can establish Spring Hill and Crossroads Middle as their own independent members, then we can staff those and then have the fields where they could participate. So our goal is to get more kids participating, and this this push us in this special project closer to that aim.
Yeah, real quickly, I won't take up much time. My understanding, and just confirm, the methodology that you're recommending here, it provides us the ability to basically streamline our processes so that we can operate more efficiently and enhance our ability to address those maintenance issues so that we can avoid, hopefully, or at least decrease our death by 1,000 cuts that we've had in the past. I have no doubt that part of the reason, if not most of the reason, for why we are where we are today is probably due to inefficiencies of previous boards, in fact, or administrations. And so, to the extent that we can streamline and become more efficient, I do applaud you, Mr. Knotts, Ms. Tucker, and Dr. Ross for looking ways to be more efficient and to operate more efficiently. So I appreciate the information, and thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. That moves us to number 16, discussion of the bond resolutions.
All right, now that we have the why, the how comes. So we have James Glover and Ms. Franny Hauser. Oh, I'm sorry. Our CFO, Ms. Tucker.
Hi, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Like Dr. Ross said, we have Jay Glover on the phone with PFM. He is our financial advisor, and Ms. Franny Hauser is here, our bond attorney. So we have it before you, two resolutions for the 2026 Series A and Series B general obligation bonds. Obviously, these will follow what the board approves as far as the capital budget, but we have said that they would not exceed $100 million. That would be the second draw of our bond referendum. Last year, we took out $60 million. We have spent 11 and encumbered about 35 of that, and we expect this next year to really ramp up as we get into the meat of those construction projects. And so want to do $100 million of referendum debt, and then $24 million is what's in the proposed capital budget, which would be the Series B general obligation bond that we would put out for essentially a competitive bid, take the lowest true interest cost of those respondents. But that's what we have for you. I'm staying for any questions.
Ms. Huddle.
What's the term on each of the bonds?
Jay. All right, turn it over to Jay.
Would you like me to address that?
Yes, please.
Good evening, Chair, school board members, Dr. Ross. Apologize in advance for my voice. I am feeling a little bit under the weather, but appreciate the opportunity to be here virtually. The Series 2026A, which is the referendum debt, will have the same final maturity as the first issuance that we had, which would be March 1 of 2045, which is your fiscal year 45. So the initial issuance we did was for 20 years, and now this one will be, 1 year less than that is the proposed final maturity. And then the 8% debt will be similar to prior deals. It will have a 1-year maturity, so it will be paid off on March 1 of 2027, and still within the 69.5 mil levy that the district has targeted in prior years.
Thank you, Jay.
Mr. Bainum.
Have we thought through, I'm sure you have, how the changes at the State House are going to affect payback of all of this? Anything from income tax reductions to boats to homestead exemptions? Is any of that factored in?
So we're following what's going on in the State House, but with the 1 year, we essentially will ensure that our tax collections for next year will be able to pay that back. And then for the longer term bonds, obviously we will be following that. But our millage rate calculations, and I don't know if you remember, back when the bond referendum was out for essential consideration, there was kind of a bar chart that had our current millage rate and where we were in the payback of our bonds. And so Jay makes sure that all of our calculations keep us on track to make sure that we pay those back, given the current economic conditions.
Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Brittany.
All right, that moves us to the discussion of the 26-27 House General Budget proposal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman of the Board. I'll be brief. Just wanted to, the South Carolina House passed, and this is just the House version we have, $15.4 billion spending proposal. This came in on March 10th. It does, to Mr. Baden's point, talk about the tax relief, the money that's for infrastructure, oversight to the South Carolina High School League. But things that we're looking at is the funds that, does this come in to buy the defibrillators? We're looking at Alyssa's laws impact about the requirements for the safety equipment, so we're looking at that. But I highlighted a 2% raise for all state employees, so that's our bus drivers, and a proposed minimum salary floor for new teachers. As we look at the priorities, we're trying to address the cost of living for our staff and our teachers. You look at our, teacher pay raise has been the number one thing that has been our issue, about 11th in the state in the average teacher salary right now. These two lines represent 7 years ago. If you look at the blue line, which is the D5 teacher pay scale, you're looking at the minimum pay to the maximum pay. So that slope is just 2 points, the minimum pay to the maximum pay. And then the red scale is the state minimum the state teacher pay scale, the state minimum to the maximum. So you can see we're closer at minimum. We get further away at the maximum. Now, when the state, this is where we are this year, right? You can see the difference between those slopes as they kind of narrow in. But there has been a significant push over 7 years to increase the state's minimum pay scale, and so we move up. Now, the closer the lines are, the more funding we will get. The further the lines are away from each other, the less funding we have. So when there's a discussion that we're going to give every teacher $2,000, if that red line doesn't cross that blue line, we're not getting the $2,000. So you see that really only affects us at the lower end of that pay scale. So again, there's an assumption that a $2,000 check arrives to Ms. Tucker and we just dole that out in our, that is not the case. It is just on the impacts of where that red line is to push the blue line. And so if the red line does not touch the blue line, there is no, those funds are not there. This is kind of confusing, but I wanted to show the two different school years at once with the 4 different pay scales. So you're looking 7 years ago where the red line is, and 7 years, and today where the red line is. Just how much that line has increased over time. And then the blue line is District 5's minimum and maximum, how much that has been pushed up over time. So when you look at the percent change in teacher pay in District 5 from our minimums, our minimums, we went from 34,300 to 50,900. That was a 48% increase in the minimum teacher pay. The state did a 51% increase. But our staff basically went up $1.44 an hour, which is 12%. So our goal this year is to really focus on, we want, again, we're going to do as much as we can for teachers, and I want that to be very clear. But that support staff, I just really want us to pay attention to $1.44 over 7 years. It's just not going to cut it for these for the staff. So that's our budget that we're looking at. We just wanted to just share that, give the data where we were, the progress we made over the last 7 years. but address cost of living crisis, support staff, supplemental pay, certified teachers, which are our teachers, the associate's degree pathway, continue with those tier 2 academic interventions. They're working, we appreciate that, and increase our supervision. We see discipline down with expectation coaches, and be robust, as we saw in the Capitol, with our cybersecurity monitoring. So again, next steps is our budget calendar. We bring back with a budget book and discussion workshop on April the 20th. When we prioritize and have that first reading of our capital resolution, and then the following will be the first reading on the actual budget, with June 8th being our public hearing. So.
Do we have any questions? Mr. Satterfield?
Again, I have a comment more than a question, but, well, I do have a question, I think, for Ms. Tucker. With regards to health care costs, the health care increase percentage-wise, was it a base cost increase, or was it percentage-wise? In other words, were our support folks getting paid even less because of the rise in the health care cost?
Yes.
And right now, they're at below poverty level, a lot of them. You know. Thank you.
Ms. Huddle?
Dr. Ross, on that slide that you had that had the different positions on it, I was just curious, that one, yes. Where would the typical teacher assistant fall on this?
A good point. What we took is the lowest, which is a class 6. So a teacher assistant, Dr. Turner, don't let me lie, but I think would be a class 8. I think 6 is our lowest, which is, these are the food service workers on the front line. Class 7 would be our, bus drivers, and then class 8 is your teacher assistant. And then there is another level above that for special ed assistant. They are on a different pay scale.
Would the trend be similar, you think?
Yes, so
Okay.
when we look at it, class 7 is your custodian. Class 6 is your food service nutrition. Class 7 is your custodian. And then class 8 is your teacher assistant. And so what we were trying to do is as you can remember, and I can tell you exactly why you're right. You remember when we had a request to increase sub-pay. And as we started to increase sub-pay, we were outpacing our teacher assistants per hour. And so that was a big toggle, that you could make more being a sub than you could from the district being a teacher assistant. So there's no funding piece. All of the funding comes in as the 11.2 per teacher from the state. And so we have to pick this up on local. And so, but when you look at a small percentage of a small number, it just gets eaten up by, right now, take a gas or a bag of groceries. So that's the focus that I think we would look at. We have a proposal. Again, that's on the operations side, which we're trying to figure out. You know, we have some impacts. Like you said, we felt, we heard that Lexington County alone with the boat piece will lose over the next 3 years about $9 million. So we know that there's some local impact issues coming. But we're really trying to make a huge dent into staff. But their percent increase is nowhere near what we've done for the other categories.
Anybody else? All right, that takes us to number 18, discussion of the Chromebook Committee. Ms. Huddle?
On our everybody's tired, so I'll be brief. We had our first meeting on March 17th. The committee is comprised of board members, Ms. Snipes, Mr. Bainum, Mr. Scully, and Mr. Herring, although Mr. Herring was unable to make that particular meeting. My understanding is that committees are always open to board members, so if anybody changes their mind and wants to join, we can do that. We asked the administration for some information that they're pulling together as far as what does the state require for testing on computers, what kind of training is provided to teachers and to parents on Chromebooks, do we have any data, studies on Chromebook usage and how it impacts academics, that kind of thing. Once we, and we've got spring break coming up, but once we get that information back, I'll poll everybody and we'll do the next meeting and I'll send out a draft agenda. And this is supposed to be very collaborative. And again, this is not a decision-making committee. The committee is just looking at the issues and we will make, we did look at the policies too. I don't want to ignore that. But any recommendations and data that the committee gathers will be referred to the full board at the appropriate time, and it may take a few meetings to get there, but this is not going to go on forever.
Thank you. Anybody else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? The motion carries 7-0. Y'all have a good night.